I have mopped that same stretch of hallway, the 40-foot run from the trophy case to the main office, every Tuesday morning for 22 years. I know every buckle in the linoleum. I know the place near the water fountain where the floor dips a quarter inch because a pipe settled in 1997, and I know if I rush the mop over at the water pools and the kids slip. So I take it slow. I always have. That Tuesday in October started the same as every other. 6:15 in the morning. The building still dark and cool. The smell of floor wax and old radiator heat that I don't think I even notice anymore, the way you stop hearing a clock you've lived with long enough. I had my cart, my mop, my thermos of coffee balanced on the upper shelf where it wouldn't tip. 22 years and I have never once spilled that thermos. I heard them setting up in the main hall before I reached it, folding tables going up, somebody wrestling a banner through the front doors, the assistant principal's voice carrying down the corridor the way it does when she's trying to sound calm and isn't. A capital campaign reception. Millhaven Preparatory Academy's first big donor event in a decade, and the woman they were honoring was coming back to the school at 2 o'clock. I knew who she was. I had known for years. I turned my cart toward the east wing and let them work. My daughter Addie called while I was restocking the supply closet near the gymnasium. She's 27 now, a nurse over in Columbus, and she has Diana's voice, the same cadence, the same way of asking how you're doing that makes you want to actually answer. She wanted to know if I was coming for Thanksgiving. I told her I was planning on it. She said she was making Diana's cornbread and I told her to call me if she got the ratios wrong. She laughed and said I always say that. I told her I always mean it. After I hung up I stood in that supply closet for a minute with the mop handle in my hand. 22 years. Diana gone for 12 of them. Addie grown and steady and kind. A life that looked, from the outside, like not very much, and felt, from the inside, like exactly enough. I put the mop back and went to work on the East Wing bathrooms. By noon the school was buzzing in that particular way it gets before something important, students moving a little faster, teachers checking their hair in the office window glass, the principal walking the front hallway with his hands clasped behind his back like he was rehearsing something. I stayed out of the main corridor. It wasn't that I was hiding. It was just that none of what was happening had anything to do with me, and I have never been someone who needed to be in the middle of things. I knew a lot about Vanessa Harmon. More than I should have, probably, for a man who had never once spoken to her. I had watched her walk these halls for 4 years. Scholarship student, partial grant, family in Clover Creek, 40 minutes south on Route 9, a town that had been emptying out since the mill closed. She used to come in early and leave late. I noticed because I was always the first one in and usually among the last ones out, and you develop an eye for the kids who are working harder than the building knows. She carried a canvas tote bag with a broken zipper held shut with a binder clip. She ate lunch at the library table by the window instead of the cafeteria, which I always figured was because she was embarrassed about the scholarship meal card. I didn't judge her for it. I had been embarrassed about money myself, more times than I could count. The gap wasn't much, that first year. $612, enrollment shortfall after the grant ceiling, plus a lab fee the scholarship didn't cover. The bursar's office sent a letter home. I know because I emptied the letter trays in the main office and I saw it sitting in the outgoing mail, the Harmon name on the envelope, and I knew the address. Clover Creek. Route 9. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I went to see Edna Pruitt in the bursar's office and I asked her what it would take to clear the balance anonymously. Edna looked at me over her reading glasses for a long moment. She said, "Walt, that's $600. I said I knew what it was. She said the school had a patron fund for exactly this purpose and she could route it through there, no name attached to the record, just patron contribution. I said that was fine. I wrote her a check that afternoon. It was most of what I had in my savings account. I went home and made rice and beans for dinner and didn't tell anyone, including Diana, until I told her 2 months later when she noticed the balance, and she didn't say a word, just reached across the kitchen table and put her hand on top of mine. That was the fall of 2009. I paid every year after that. The amounts varied, some years $600, 1 year $400 when the grant came through better, 1 year $900 when the fees went up and a field trip wasn't covered. 14 years, I calculated once, sitting at the kitchen table after Diana was gone and Addie was in nursing school and the house was very quiet. 14 years and right around $9,000, spread out so thin across the annual budget that I barely felt any single payment. The compound interest on money I never spent on anything else. I was not a wealthy man. I am not a wealthy man. I am a school custodian in Millhaven, Ohio, who drives a 2011 pickup truck and buys his work boots on sale at the farm supply store and takes 1 week of vacation a year, which I spend with Addie in Columbus. But Addie grew up knowing that when you see somebody who needs a thing you give it, and you don't make a production of it. That was Diana's rule and I tried to live by it. Vanessa Harmon graduated in 2013. I watched the ceremony from the back of the gymnasium, the way I always did. I didn't know then that she'd gone on to Ohio State on a full engineering scholarship. I didn't know about Harmon Meridian Construction, which she'd founded at 31 with 2 other women and a commercial loan and which now employed 400 people across 3 states. I found that out the same way I found out most things about the world, slowly, sideways, from a faculty lounge newspaper someone left on a table. The reception started at 2. I was replacing a light panel in the corridor behind the gymnasium when I heard the applause from the main hall. Clear and warm and the kind that doesn't stop after the first wave. I set down my screwdriver and listened to it for a moment. Then I picked it back up. There were remarks. I could hear the principal's cadence, the practiced pause before a statistic, the self-congratulation that comes out of a man's voice when he thinks a room is watching him be generous. Then another voice cut in, lower, steadier, with a Midwestern directness that reminded me a little of Diana's side of the family. No performance in it. Just a woman talking. She talked about the school, about what it had given her, about the scholarship that got her through the door and the teachers who kept her there. She talked about Route 9 and what it meant to leave a place and what it meant to come back to it when you finally had something to give. She said it plainly, the way people who grew up without much say things plainly, because they were never in the habit of dressing a sentence up to seem like more than it was. Then she said there was a line item in her life she'd been trying to trace for years. An anonymous patron contribution. 14 years of it, it turned out, because she'd finally gotten the bursar's office to pull the old ledgers. I stopped breathing for a second. I've never been able to find out who it was, she said, and the room went quiet in the particular way rooms do when people realize something true is happening. But whoever it was gave me more than money. They gave me the assumption that I was worth the trouble. I've thought about that almost every day since I was 17. The applause that followed was different from the first kind. Softer. Real. I went back to the light panel. I was almost done when I heard footsteps behind me, not a student's shuffle, not a teacher's purposeful clip. Deliberate. Slowing. The kind of footsteps that know where they are going and have decided to get there. Excuse me. I turned around. She was taller than I remembered from the hallway, though I suppose I mostly remembered her at 17 and from a distance. She was in a charcoal suit, hair pulled back, and she had the look of someone who had walked into a great many rooms and had learned to read them before the door closed behind her. She was reading me now. "Are you Walt Greer?" she said. I said I was. She held a piece of paper. Old paper, the kind the school used before they switched to the digital system. A payment ledger printout, the font from a machine we stopped using in 2016. I recognized it immediately. I had stood at that window in the bursar's office 18 times over 14 years and I knew what those columns looked like. She looked down at it and then back at me. "Edna Pruitt is here today," she said quietly. She was bursar for 30 years. I asked her about the patron fund. I asked her if she could remember anything at all about who made those contributions. She paused. "She remembered your name." I didn't say anything. There was nothing dishonest in being quiet. "The first payment was fall of 2009, she said. $612. Anonymous patron. And then every year after that." "Yes," I said. She was quiet for a moment. The corridor was empty. The light panel above us hummed where I hadn't finished tightening the housing. Somewhere down the east wing a locker slammed and a kid laughed, and then it was quiet again. "Why?" she said. Not angry. Not anything with an edge in it. Just the plain word, the way you ask it when you have genuinely needed to know something for a long time. I thought about how to answer that. I thought about Edna's face over those reading glasses. I thought about Diana's hand on mine across the kitchen table. I thought about Addie at 27, steady and kind, making her mother's cornbread in a Columbus apartment. Because you were going to be somebody, I said. And you needed $600 a semester. She looked at me for a long time. I held her gaze because I didn't have any reason not to. You've been here the whole time, she said. 22 years, I said. She looked down the corridor, the linoleum, the trophy case at the far end, the water fountain with the dip in the floor beside it. She looked at it the way people look at a place they thought they knew and are now seeing slightly differently. I have enough money now that I could pay it back with interest, she said. I could give you $100,000 right now and it would not make a dent. I know, I said. And I don't need it. I know you don't. She said it like she had already understood that before she came to find me. I just needed to find you. She held out her hand. I shook it. Her grip was firm, the way Addie's is, the grip of someone who built something real with their own hands and remembers how it felt. Thank you, Mr. Greer, she said. I told her she was welcome. I told her she'd done something good with it, which was all a person could hope for when they placed a bet like that. She smiled at that, a real one, not a polished one. The kind that starts in the eyes. Then she turned and walked back toward the main hall, and her footsteps echoed off the linoleum until they didn't. I stood there for a minute. The trophy case at the far end of the hall caught the afternoon light the way it always does in October, a low gold slant that makes the old photographs look like they were taken in a different country. I've walked past that case 10,000 times. I have never once seen my name on anything inside it, and I never expected to. Then I reached up and finished tightening the light panel housing. It clicked into place. The humming stopped. My phone buzzed in my shirt pocket. Addie, texting a photo, her kitchen counter, the cornbread in the cast iron skillet, golden and just right, the ratios exactly as I'd taught her. Below the photo she'd written, *, don't worry. I called you anyway, *. I stood in that corridor and looked at the picture for a while. 22 years of the same hallway. $9,000 spread across 14 autumn semesters. A woman who made something real with what she'd been given, and found her way back to say so. Diana would have said that was the whole point. I put my phone away, picked up my screwdriver, and went to find the next thing that needed fixing.